Hello, and welcome back to the Self-Actualization in the Age of Crisis Chapter Summary Series. I'm your host, Ron Rivers, and today we're going to be exploring Chapter 0, Section Exponential Growth. So exponential growth can be simply defined as when a unit of measure grows by its own value or doubles. It's a really important concept for human beings to kind of wrap their head around because our experience, right, the daily experience of life, seems incredibly linear. Change is incremental, right? Always accomplished within the individual moments we have within any given day. But this does not apply to our creations, nor does it apply to the expansion of information within the informational universe. Now, exponential growth is observable everywhere. We see it and most commonly referred to when we think of technology, software startups, right? They want to scale growth. That means grow exponentially. But we also see it in population growth. We see it in the spread of pandemics. And perhaps most astonishing, the universe itself is expanding exponentially. Now, perhaps one of the most famous prophecies about exponential growth comes from the futurist and technologist Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil is a brilliant mind, wrote a book called The Singularity is Near. And within that text, he kind of outlines the history of exponential growth, including biological growth, but also the total technological progress of humanity over time has been following an exponential curve even before we understood it was. But most importantly, he talks about the singularity. So the idea is when you on an exponential growth curve, as you saw the graph earlier, there's a knee of a curve, right? And once you pass that knee of the curve, the speed at which we progress becomes so accelerated and so fast, it really represents nothing as we presently understand it today. So in that moment, the question is, who and what do we become? Kurzweil suggests that we will merge with our technologies, much as we really already have. So when we talk about the exponential expansion of information, it changes everything about our lives, whether or not we recognize it within any individual moment. Now, with that said, the question that I pose in Self-Actualization in the Age of Crisis is, let's assume this singularity is true. Let's assume that we do reach this technological ascendancy where we merge with our creations and, to quote Kurzweil, increase our intelligence a billion-fold. So the question I propose is, what form of society does the singularity become born into, and how will that impact its trajectory and direction of growth? For example, does the singularity occur within the rigid hierarchies of class and caste that we all inhabit within our immediate present, right? This rigid social organization that frankly prioritizes birth lottery above all else. Or alternatively, can we construct new frameworks of meaning and values that inspire a systemic project that allow the singularity to occur into a much more kind of pluralistic collective vision of humanity, where the benefits are spread much wider and much farther throughout society to ensure that we elevate the collective humanity instead of following our existing trajectory of elevating the extreme few with the exclusion of the many being part of that equation. So when we consider linear time experience, right? The idea of momentary existence where we inhabit days and the days have set minutes and we have to sleep, so it kind of have it's like a reset button for us, which kind of reinforces our linear perspective. The question is, how does exponential growth apply to our spiritual project, right? Our spiritual transcendence that is so necessary to overcome the age of crisis. And to that end, I argue that transcendence is emergent. And throughout the text, when you watch these kind of chapter review series, you're going to kind of hear me return to that to some time, but I really want that to sink in. Salvation in our immediate present must be a choice. We must decide to emerge, to transcend our circumstances, to become more. And to that end, exponential growth gives us a vision of our reality. We know it to be true in our material reality, in our physical reality. What we must embody it is in our spiritual and philosophical reality. The idea is that we'll always be bound within a human experience to change being momentary, right? That's not going to change because in our unique conscious coordinates, in our embodiment of the human body, that's how we experience existence. However, the direction of our focus and energy, the direction of the change we create can shift exponentially. It can go 90 degrees. It can be a right angle. And a huge kind of argument within self-actualization in the age of crisis is that that is what is necessary. We must choose an emergent philosophy of being, which then will fuel the spiritual, individual, and systemic projects necessary to transcend the age of crisis.